Some days, you wake up and you already feel tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. Not the kind of tired that coffee can solve. It's a quiet tiredness. It sits in your chest. It follows you into the day. It makes everything feel heavier than it should be. You haven't done anything yet, but you already feel like you've done too much. And the first thing you tell yourself is, I should be doing something. You don't even know what. Just something. Because doing nothing feels wrong. It feels lazy. It feels irresponsible. It feels like you are wasting time. So you move. You open your phone. You scroll. You answer messages. You start small tasks. Not because you want to, but because stopping feels uncomfortable. I know this feeling very well. For a long time, I thought rest was something you had to earn. You work hard first. You push. You prove yourself. Then, maybe, you're allowed to rest. So when I felt tired, I didn't slow down. I pushed harder. I told myself, just get through today. Tomorrow will be easier. Everyone else is managing, but tomorrow was never easier. The tiredness stayed. It became normal. And when something becomes normal, you stop questioning it. You stop asking, is this healthy? Is this necessary? Is this how life is supposed to feel? You just accept it. There was a moment, not dramatic, but clear, when I realized something was wrong. I was sitting alone, doing nothing important. No work, no deadlines, no pressure. And still, I felt restless. My body was sitting, but my mind was running. I felt guilty for resting, guilty for not being productive, guilty for not using my time better. That guilt surprised me. Why should resting feel like a mistake? That question stayed with me. I started noticing how uncomfortable I was with stillness. Silence made me anxious. Empty time made me nervous. I realized I had learned to always be busy. Busy became my safety, my excuse, my identity. If I was busy, I didn't have to listen to my feelings. I didn't have to face my tiredness, my doubts, my quiet sadness. Doing nothing meant feeling, and feeling felt risky. So I avoided it. But avoidance has a cost. The more I avoided rest, the more exhausted I became. Not just physically, emotionally. I smiled more. I laughed more. I said, I'm fine more. But inside, I felt distant from myself. One evening, I made a small decision. I decided to do nothing. On purpose. No phone, no music, no distraction. Just sitting quietly. At first, it felt uncomfortable. My thoughts became loud. You should be working. You're wasting time. You could be improving yourself. I didn't argue with those thoughts. I didn't try to fix them. I just noticed them. And slowly, they lost some of their power. I noticed my breathing. I noticed how tense my shoulders were. I noticed how tired I really felt. That moment was not productive. It didn't achieve anything. But it was honest. And honesty was what I needed. I realized something important that night. My tiredness was not weakness. It was information. It was my body saying, this pace is too much. This constant pushing is hurting you. But I had been ignoring that message for a long time, because slowing down felt like failure. In a world that celebrates speed, rest looks like giving up. But what if it's not? What if, on some days, doing nothing is not quitting, but choosing to stay whole? That idea changed how I see rest. Rest is not laziness. Rest is not escape. Rest is listening. Listening to your body. Listening to your emotions. Listening to what you actually need, not what you think you should need. I began practicing small pauses. Not big breaks, not vacations. Just moments. 5 minutes of silence. A slow walk. Sitting without checking my phone. At first, the guilt came back every time. But each time I rested, and nothing bad happened, the guilt became weaker. The world didn't collapse. People didn't disappear. Life continued. And I felt a little lighter. I started noticing how much pressure I carried, without realizing it. Pressure to be useful. Pressure to improve. Pressure to move forward all the time. But life is not always about moving forward. Sometimes it's about staying with yourself, staying with your feelings, staying with the present moment. Those moments don't look impressive. They don't show results, but they heal. Slowly, quietly. I learned that bravery doesn't always look loud. Sometimes bravery is choosing to rest when the world tells you to hurry. Sometimes bravery is doing nothing when everything inside you says you should do more. If you are listening to this and you feel tired today, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not falling behind. You may simply be human. And today, doing nothing might be the bravest thing you can do. I used to think that rest was something you earn, that you have to be tired first, productive first, useful first. Only then. You are allowed to stop. So even on slow days, I was still pushing myself, scrolling my phone, but feeling guilty, lying on the bed, but thinking about unfinished tasks. My body was resting, but my mind never stopped. And that kind of rest never really heals you. There was a period in my life when I felt exhausted all the time, even though I wasn't doing much. Have you ever felt that? You wake up already tired. You don't remember doing anything hard yesterday, but your chest feels heavy. Your thoughts feel noisy. That's when I started to realize, maybe tiredness doesn't always come from doing too much. Sometimes it comes from not allowing yourself to be still. We live in a world that praises movement, fast progress, quick results, busy schedules. If you slow down, people ask, "What's wrong?" If you do nothing, they assume you're lazy. So slowly, without noticing, we learn to be afraid of stillness. We fill every quiet moment, music while showering, videos while eating, notifications while resting. Silence feels uncomfortable. Doing nothing feels wrong. But one night, something small happened. I was sitting alone in my room. No phone, no music, just a dim light and the sound of my own breathing. At first, I felt uneasy. My hands wanted to reach for something. My mind wanted to escape. But I stayed. I did nothing. And after a while, something softened inside me. My shoulders dropped. My breathing slowed. My thoughts became less sharp, less demanding. It felt unfamiliar, but also safe. That night, I realized something important. Doing nothing is not empty. It is space. Space for your body to recover. And space for your mind to untangle itself. Space for emotions you've been avoiding to gently show up. Have you ever noticed how your best thoughts often come when you are not trying? In the shower, on a quiet walk, lying in bed before sleep. They don't come when you force them. They come when you give them room. For a long time, I thought being brave meant pushing forward, working harder, enduring more, ignoring discomfort. But now, I see another kind of bravery, the bravery to stop, to sit with yourself, to face the silence without filling it. Some days, doing nothing is not giving up. It is choosing not to break yourself. There were days when my to-do list stayed untouched. No progress, no achievements, no visible success. And instead of fighting it, I let it be. I lay down. I stared at the ceiling. I listened to the sound outside my window. Cars passing, distant voices, the night breathing. And slowly, without effort, I felt more like myself again. Not better, not stronger, just present. And that was enough. If you are listening to this right now, maybe you are in that kind of day. A slow day, a heavy day, a quiet day. Maybe you feel like you should be doing more, or becoming more, or catching up. But let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly rested without feeling guilty? Not sleeping from exhaustion, not scrolling until you pass out, but real rest, the kind that asks nothing from you. We rarely learn how to do that. We learn how to be useful, how to be productive, how to improve, but we don't learn how to simply exist. Yet, existence itself takes courage. To sit with your thoughts, to feel emotions without fixing them, to allow a day to be just a day. No lesson, no achievement, no story to tell. Some days, doing nothing is the bravest thing because it goes against everything we were taught. It says, I am enough, even when I am still. And that belief is not easy to hold. I am still learning it. Some days I forget. I fall back into rushing, into proving, into noise. But other days, I remember. I slow down, I breathe, I allow myself to stop. And every time I do, I feel a little more whole. Not because I accomplished something, but because I didn't abandon myself. If tonight you don't have the energy to move forward, maybe that's okay. Maybe tonight is not for progress. Maybe it is for rest, for listening, for being, for doing nothing, and letting that be enough. And if your mind tells you that this is weakness, that you are falling behind, that you should be more, just listen to your breath for a moment. In, out. You are still here. And sometimes that is the bravest thing of all. After that, I started to notice something quietly changing. Not outside, inside. I stopped asking myself, what should I do next? And began asking, how do I feel right now? At first, that question felt strange. I wasn't used to listening inward. I was trained to look forward, to plan, to fix, to move. So when I asked, how do I feel? My mind went silent. No clear answer, just a soft confusion. And that's when I realized how disconnected I had become from my own inner rhythm. We often know what others expect from us. We know deadlines, we know responsibilities, but we don't always know our own pace. Our real pace, the one that isn't rushed, the one that doesn't compete, the one that feels natural. Some days my pace is slow, very slow. I wake up and my body feels heavy. Not sick, not sad. Just slow. Before, I would fight that feeling. Drink more coffee, force more energy, push through. But now, I try something different. I listen, I move gently. I lower my expectations. I allow the day to unfold quietly. And surprisingly, those days don't fall apart. They don't become useless. They don't disappear. They simply become soft. Have you ever noticed how nature never rushes? Trees don't hurry. Clouds don't panic. The sun doesn't worry about rising late. Everything moves at its own rhythm. Yet we treat ourselves like machines, always on, always available, always improving. No wonder we feel tired even when we rest. Because real rest is not only about stopping your body, it's about releasing pressure. Pressure to be someone, pressure to become something, pressure to justify your existence. When you do nothing, you step outside that pressure, even if only for a moment. And that moment can be deeply healing. There was an afternoon when I sat by the window, doing absolutely nothing. No music, no book, no plan, just watching the light change. At first, my mind protested. You're wasting time. You could be learning something. You should be more productive. But I didn't answer. I let the thoughts pass like clouds. Slowly, they became quieter. And in that quiet, I felt something rare. Permission. Permission to exist without explanation. That feeling stayed with me. And I began to notice how often we apologize for resting. I'm sorry, I'm just tired. I haven't done much today. I was lazy. Why do we speak about ourselves like that? Why does stillness need justification? Some days, your nervous system needs calm, not stimulation. Some days, your heart needs silence, not motivation. Some days, your soul needs space, not goals. Doing nothing creates that space, but it takes courage to protect it. Because the world doesn't reward stillness, it rewards output, visibility, speed. So choosing slowness can feel lonely. You might feel out of sync, like everyone else is moving forward while you pause. But here is something important. Pausing does not mean you are behind. Sometimes it means you are listening. Listening to signals you ignored for too long. Fatigue, overwhelm, quiet sadness. These signals don't scream. They whisper. And you can only hear whispers when you slow down. I didn't understand this until my body forced me to. There was a time when I kept going even when I was empty. I told myself, just a little more. But the body keeps score. One day, I couldn't focus, couldn't feel joy, couldn't even rest properly. That was my lesson. Now, when I feel that familiar heaviness, I don't argue. I respond. I simplify my day. I reduce noise. I choose gentleness. And often, doing nothing is the most gentle choice. Not scrolling, not distracting, just being, breathing, existing. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. Because when you stop, feelings surface. Unanswered questions, old emotions, quiet fears. Doing nothing means facing them without running away. That's why it's brave. It takes strength to sit with yourself without judgment, to allow discomfort without fixing it, to trust that you don't need to earn rest. If you are listening right now, maybe you're in that space. Not moving, not achieving, just breathing. And maybe part of you feels uneasy about it. If so, I want you to know something. You are not wasting your life. You are tending to it, like resting soil before the next season, like silence before music. Some days, nothing happens. No progress, no story, no visible change. But inside, something is settling. Something is healing. And you don't need to rush that. You don't need to explain it. You don't need permission. Doing nothing can be an act of self-respect, a quiet way of saying, I matter too. And sometimes, that quiet decision changes everything. I didn't always believe that. There were days when I felt ashamed of my own slowness, when I looked around and saw people moving fast, achieving things, posting progress. And I was just here, quiet, still, invisible. I wondered if something was wrong with me. Why couldn't I keep up? Why did I need so much rest? Why did silence feel necessary while others seemed energized by noise? For a long time, I tried to copy their rhythm. Wake up earlier, plan harder, push longer. But the more I tried, the further I felt from myself. It was like wearing shoes that didn't fit. You can walk in them, but every step hurts. One evening, I asked myself a question I had been avoiding. What if this is simply my pace? Not a weakness, not a flaw, just my natural speed. That thought felt both scary and relieving. Scary. Ma, because it meant I couldn't measure myself by common standards anymore. Relieving, because it meant I could finally stop pretending. Some people bloom loudly, others quietly. Some grow fast, others grow deep. Slowness is not absence of movement. It is movement inward. When you do nothing, you give yourself time to notice small things. The way your breath changes, the way tension sits in your body, the way emotions rise and fall without explanation. These things are easy to miss when life is loud. I started creating small islands of nothingness, 10 minutes without stimulation, a walk without headphones, a morning without checking messages. At first, it felt uncomfortable, like I was forgetting something important. But slowly, those moments became anchors. They grounded me. I felt less scattered, less reactive, less tired in a deep way, not energized, but steadier. And steadiness is something we rarely talk about. We chase excitement, motivation, inspiration, but steadiness keeps you alive when motivation fades. Doing nothing helps you find that steadiness. It brings you back to a neutral state. Not happy, not sad, just balanced. There was a morning when I woke up with no urge to rush. The day was empty, no plans, no pressure. And instead of filling it, I let it remain empty. I made tea slowly, watched steam rise, listened to the quiet. That morning didn't change my life. Nothing dramatic happened, but something subtle shifted. I felt kinder toward myself. I stopped demanding explanations. I stopped asking, "What's the purpose of this moment?" and just lived it. We often treat life like a project. Every moment needs a result, and every day needs meaning. But maybe meaning is not always loud. Maybe meaning sometimes looks like rest, like still water, like silence between words. Have you ever noticed how pauses make conversations deeper? Without pauses, everything feels rushed, superficial. Life is the same. If you never pause, you never hear what's underneath. Doing nothing creates that pause. It gives life texture, depth. I know it's hard, especially when you feel behind, when age, career, or expectations weigh on you. Doing nothing can feel irresponsible, but ignoring your inner needs is more dangerous. Burnout doesn't come from laziness. It comes from ignoring limits. Rest is not the opposite of effort. It is part of effort, just like night is part of the day, just like silence is part of music. If you remove it, everything becomes noise. I still struggle with this. Some days I rest without guilt. Other days I fight myself. I check the time. I calculate productivity. I feel uneasy. But now, at least I notice. And noticing is the first step. I gently remind myself, I am not falling behind. I am slowing down to stay whole. Some days doing nothing feels like standing still, but often it is the moment you stop drifting away from yourself. And that, quietly, matters more than we realize. It took me a long time to stop arguing with myself, to stop turning rest into a debate, to stop asking, "Do I deserve this break?" and instead ask, "What do I need right now?" That shift didn't happen overnight. It came from many quiet moments. Moments when I chose not to push. Moments when I chose to sit, even though I felt uneasy. Moments when I chose to do nothing, and let the feeling stay. Over time, those moments taught me something gentle, that my worth does not rise and fall with my productivity, that I am still me on days when I do nothing, and that realization changed how I see life. I stopped dividing days into good and bad, productive and wasted. Instead, I began to see days as different seasons. Some days are spring, light, active, growing. Some days are summer, busy, loud, full. Some days are autumn, slow, reflective, letting go. And some days are winter, quiet, still, bare. You don't expect winter to bloom. You don't blame it for resting. So why do we blame ourselves when we enter that season? Doing nothing is not an accident. It is a signal that something inside you needs attention, not fixing, not improving, just attention. I remember a night when I couldn't sleep, not because I was stressed, but because my mind was unusually quiet. I lay there, listening to my breath. In, out. And I thought, this is what peace feels like. Not excitement, not happiness, just peace. That night, I didn't learn anything new. I didn't plan my future. I didn't solve my problems. But I rested deeply. And the next day, I moved differently, more gently, more patiently. Not because I forced myself, but because I was no longer exhausted. That's the quiet power of doing nothing. It doesn't shout. It doesn't announce itself. But it changes how you show up. When you rest well, you listen better. When you slow down, you react less. When you allow stillness, you become more present. And presence is something people feel, even when you say nothing. Some of the calmest people I know are not calm because life is easy. They are calm because they know when to stop. They know when to step back, when to breathe, when to let a moment pass without controlling it. That is a skill, a quiet one, but powerful. If you've been listening from the beginning, maybe something inside you has softened too. Maybe you feel a little slower, a little calmer. If so, don't rush out of it. Carry that slowness with you into tomorrow, into the next conversation, into the next decision. You don't need to announce it. Just move a little more gently, speak a little more slowly, breathe a little more deeply. And when the world tells you to hurry, to prove, to keep up, remember this. Some days, doing nothing is not falling behind. It is choosing yourself. It is choosing sustainability over speed, wholeness over approval. And that choice, even if no one sees it, matters. If this slow moment has helped you feel less alone, less rushed, or simply more at ease, you can support this space by gently tapping like and subscribing to the channel. It helps this kind of quiet content reach people who need it too. Thank you for resting here with me. And tonight, if all you do is breathe and be, that is already enough.